welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Black On Podcast, where we bring you Texans news, notes, and off topics. Today, this is your boy AD. We got Leo, got Bab, and we got a special guest, Steven, in the building. How you guys doing?
Good, man.
Good, man.
All right, so today we are going to talk about, and we're going to break down our rookie player, we're going to break down the rookie class one by one. Each one of us has a specific player that we kind of are going to highlight. So we're going to start basically from draft order, and we're even going to talk about a undrafted free agent as well.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. So be on the lookout for that. But we are going to start with our first pick, which is Derek Stingley, cornerback from LSU. And the person who picked him was Steven. So go ahead, Steven. Go ahead and give us your...
Yeah, man. So I'm super excited about Stingley. I've had him as my number one corner going back for a while. I did flip-flop him and Sauce for a brief period, but I ended up settling on Stingley. What I like about Stingley is his athletic traits. So if you see him on film, if you've ever seen any clips of him, one thing you can see is that he can move and mirror with the receiver as good as anybody I've ever seen. Like, he has the hips, the change of direction, all those things that you look for, honestly, and even like the receiver position, he has those. So, I've always said that, and you can it can be dangerous to give player comparisons, but I always said that, like, if Stingley reaches his potential, he could be, in my eyes, a Hall of Fame type cornerback, like in the mold of like a Darrelle Revis kind of deal, just the way he moves, his athleticism. Of course he had question marks coming out because of the injuries and things like that, but I believe and I hope that the Texans did their due diligence on that, and if you pick him as high as 3, I'm betting that they did, that they're comfortable with those injuries. And his drop off from his freshman to junior year, I get all that, but I got to also remember, he had different coordinators, things like that. So you can nitpick Stingley, but I think if you just turn on the tape and look at how he moves, all the negatives that you can nitpick on, they're all coachable. And I think his athletic traits can take him to another level, and he can end up being one of the few elite players from this draft class, in my opinion. So I'm excited. What do you guys think?
Oh yeah, I'm excited too, man. I mean, it was shocking to see that, because like I didn't think that they was gonna do it that early. I didn't think it was gonna take it. I think we all thought that they weren't gonna take. I think we all thought that they was either gonna trade back and take a corner, or trade up 14 and take a corner. But I mean, like I always say, since it came out that Neil and Icky, had health problems that were legit, I think it would probably taken Stingley anyway, but it just only made it that much more of an easy decision. And then on top of that, man, I think he had pretty much the highest peak out of anyone probably in this draft, I say, right? How he played on, that his freshman year. I mean, he probably would have been a top 3 pick as a freshman. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, so I mean, I think he kind of and it's like I say, bro. I think him. It took pretty much everything going wrong the next 2 years for him not to be the first or a top 2 pick in this draft. So I think that the storm was just right, and I think we pretty much probably got the best player in this draft at 3.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, if he reaches his potential, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, I feel like the best comparison, which is something that came out recently, was Champ Bailey.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at Champ Bailey, sustained success, lockdown corner, eventually going to be a Hall of Fame cornerback. I feel like Stingley has all the potential to do that. He has the size, the speed, to kind of play any scheme. I think he can play zone. I know he's good in man. to me, he gives you everything you would want in a cornerback. And he, brought everything to the table where it comes to level of competition where he succeeded, which is the knock on Sauce is that, yeah, he was great, but look at who he played. Stingley kind of checks all the boxes, and I think the injury concern was the biggest. And once he cleared that at his pro day and showed that he was, going back to form, then everybody kind of signed off on it, and I'm happy with the pick. So
Yeah, if he played all three seasons like he played his freshman year, you'd have a damn hashtag on Twitter like something for Stingley or something like that. You know what I'm saying? The dude would be the consensus #1 pick. Like if he played just like that. And I think, he didn't just suck now. You know what I'm saying? Like if he's healthy, he's gonna be Derek Stingley. So yeah. Anyways, all right, we can keep rolling.
Yeah, so moving on to our next pick, we have Kenyon Green. I was lucky enough to get Kenyon. To me, Kenyon Green was the best interior offensive lineman in the draft. Which is the biggest need that the Texans needed on the offensive line was interior offensive lineman. And they end up getting the best interior offensive lineman. Kenyon Green is special. He's a big body guy, 6'4", 323. His thing that he excels on, and one thing that makes him the most intriguing is that he's versatile. He played in his time at A&M, his 3 years at A&M, he literally played every position on the offensive line, whether it be center, right guard, left tackle, right tackle. He played all. Just going back on the breakdown of Kenyon Green, his, positives was his wide base and wide frame, which made it good for him in the run blocking scheme as well as pass blocking. He never got overpowered, never got bull rush. To me, bull rush has never worked with Kenyon Green, especially with his hand placement and his hand reset. He's very, very good at that. Also, he's great at walling off blockers in the run game. When it comes to the run game and him getting, even if he's not able to get to the second level, he's able to turn the defender and create a hole for the running back. And that's what he really succeeded, which makes him a prime guard prospect. And to me, instant starter at guard, just based on him in the run game and him being able to, be very, very, very good in pass pro. One thing that I think they talk about Kenyon Green a lot is that his lack of athleticism is that he's not the best athlete, but he's athletic enough to consistently get to the second level and consistently able to make blocks on that second level, sometimes down the field as well. He's good at pulling, good to great as a pulling guard. He did that a lot at A&M because they ran a lot of power. They ran some zone as well. I would say that's a weakness of his is that he wouldn't fit the best at a zone blocking scheme. I feel like he kind of struggles because of his lack of athleticism, that he's not able to move as quickly. I mean, his 40 time, he ran a 5.24, which is, one of it's average offensive line 40 time, but you look at the others like Icky, who ran a sub 5, Evan Neal ran a sub 5. These athletic monsters, big, humongous men running these extremely fast 40s. He's not one of those guys. He's kind of an average speed, average, arm length, average hand guy. To me, one thing is that he's smart when it comes to picking up stunts and blitzes. If you look at the games that really solidified that is the 2 Alabama games the last 2 years where he played amazing. In 2020 at Alabama, he held down that defensive line. Alabama runs all kind of stunts and everything like that. He is very, very good at I talked about the pass pro and I talked about him walling off blocks. He's good at other than picking up those blocks and picking up those stunts and blitzes. I think that is something that's very, very much needed because a lot of time this past year, offensive line was looking confused, looking like, what the hell? Whose man is this? Why? And I look at Justin Britt all the time. There was a misplay. He would always look back like, what the hell? What's going on? I thought that was your man, whatever, whatever. He's a great communicator. He's a great communicator, and he always makes sure that he kind of sets the line, to me, because he was the captain of the line. He sets the line where they need to be, and him being able to play those multiple positions kind of gives him the knowledge of what is expected from each position on the line. Other than that, like I said, to me, his only knock was his lack of athleticism, but everything else he's damn good at. Good at pass pro, good at, run blocking, good at walling off blockers, good at getting the second level, consistent. He's very, very consistent, was a 3-time All-American at A&M. Blue chip player, just, 5-star coming out of college, coming out of high school. Everything you could ask for as a starting left guard. I feel like he's going to be the starting left guard for the future for the Texans. And, I just want to hear you guys' thoughts about Kenyon Green.
Yeah, I'd like to kick it off if that's okay. So yeah, like the knock of him like not being the most athletic, it's like, so what? Like, just go watch the tape. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't need to see how good of an athlete he is in like shorts and a t-shirt. Like, he's just punching everybody in the mouth, like AD. I'm so glad you brought up the Alabama games as reference. Cause like the morning of the Alabama game this last year, didn't they tell him he's playing left tackle against Will Anderson?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's a testament to his mental capability, his mental stability, right? Like where he's at mentally, right? He's just a dog. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I think if there was like maybe an argument for why you would want a Laramie Tunsil in camp right now would be, can maybe he see just a little bit of how Laramie Tunsil moves? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you want people that are there. That's a different conversation. So yeah, he's, and we always had this conversation. Anyone who's watched the show, anyone who's listened, my opinion has always been pretty much if you were drafting an offensive lineman in the first 2 rounds for the Texans, they were immediately going to come in and be the second best offensive lineman on the team. With Kenyon Green, I can definitively say that he's the second best offensive lineman on the team next to Laramie Tunsil, and they're both on the left side. That's great.
Yeah, I'll jump in, Leo, if it's cool with you. So with Green, I'll be honest, I wasn't in love with the pick when it happened. And I've always thought he was a great player. Actually, I thought he might have lasted towards the end of the first, maybe second round, and he was somebody I would have targeted. But I think, who knows how the Texans see him? They may think he's a, Pro Bowl ceiling player. I do think he's a plug and play starter. Immediately, at least the third best, if not second best, to your point, offensive lineman on the team. Brick wall, strong, great anchor. I think he's going to improve. And the thing about drafting an O-lineman in the first round is, or any round for that matter, it improves 2 areas of the team. It improves your running game and your pass game. So where everybody talks about giving Mills the chance this year. Well, you don't really do that unless you give him weapons. You're not really giving him a true chance unless you give him weapons. And offensive line is a weapon. That's allows him to succeed. So, we'll go into Metchie and some of the other players later. But I like what Casario's doing. I personally do think it was a bit of a reach, in my own opinion. But just because it's a reach doesn't mean it wasn't the right pick, for the team. Because Casario's job is to hit on all these picks. That's the fastest way the Texans are going to get over the hump and become successful, is to hit on these picks. So taking a player that is going to plug in and be a day one starter and be above average is a great pick. And yeah, maybe there's other players with higher ceilings, but more question marks, and doesn't necessarily impact the team as much as O-line did at that spot. So, it's a wait and see with any of these rookies, but I'm excited with how it, it shook out, and we'll see what happens from here.
Yeah, I think it was a good, definitely a pick of need. We all knew that they needed to go O-line and address, the guard position specifically. Just the O-line as a whole, I mean, you know, it just needs work, what I mean? So they went guard, which was honestly the safest thing to do based off of the tackles that we had and getting like a real clear evaluation of Titus Howard moving forward. So yeah, and I mean, we need good guards. We did not have good guards, so great pick from that perspective. But yeah, I definitely have heard people say what Steven said. I mean, it's definitely people have different opinions about the pick. I think that it was a but for the same reason, every reason that he said was good, I definitely agree. So yeah, man. I mean, I think that he'll come in and obviously he's gonna start because I mean, who the fuck else is gonna start there? And on top of him being good, what I mean. So
yeah.
Shit.
Don't it, here's the thing too, is like for fans and all of us is like, and because Harry, I think even said this, is just like, you don't put huge expectations on these guys. Like they're not going to come out as like Pro Bowl guys day one. Like they're going to have ups and downs, most likely. If they come out as a Pro Bowl player, and just kill it, end up on ESPN and all that, that's great. But like, you can't expect all these players to come out and not have, growing pains. It's the NFL. They're not playing Clemson anymore. You know what I'm saying? So, it just, you got to have good expectations and not overhype them too much.
Yeah, and Steven, just to kind of, like Leo was saying, the opinion that opinion about him being in a breach is not out of the realm. We had Fred Weary on one of our spaces, original Texan offensive lineman. One of his comments that he felt as an offensive lineman, he felt that Kenyon Green was a reach. He felt that you probably could find Kenyon Green in the second round. Honestly, I think
I don't know about the second, but I said I don't know about the second.
Right. That was where he went. But my thing is, I could see it as well. But at the end of the day, Nick Caserio knew, because he did say he had a trade down to 20. He knew that either Kenyon Green or both Kenyon Green and Zion Johnson wouldn't be there at 20 when you make that trade.
Yeah.
He knew, and he traded down as far as he possibly could go without, giving up your picks that you wanted, because I think he really wanted an interior offensive line. And I think it was one, they wanted Kenyon Green, and I think if they couldn't get Kenyon Green, they would have settled on Zion Johnson. But I think Kenyon Green was the pick. And I'm, like I said, at the end of the day, we just have to, ride it out and see how he performs. And I feel like he's going to perform well with everything. So all in all, let's move on to the next pick.
Yeah, so first pick of the second round is someone who I think was probably one of the more pulverizing picks, especially initially, was Jalen Pitre out of Baylor, Stafford, Texas. Baylor, Stafford, Texas, Stafford High School, 5'11", 198-pound safety. In this like kind of hybrid role that is, I guess, called the star position now. I'll start off with just weaknesses and move, into the other shit. I mean, so one of the main weaknesses that I think people have with him is that he's not a traditional safety. He has very little experience playing deep in college. I'm tired of getting arguments with motherfuckers saying that he's goddamn Ed Reed and Earl Thomas and shit. I mean, just because he kicked your ass in, high school doesn't mean that he's goddamn Ed Reed and all this shit. I mean, maybe he is, but he hasn't shown it yet. So let's just calm down. What he has shown is that he's very, very versatile in terms of like where he can play along the line of scrimmage. He's played more snaps on defensive line, in one season than he's played deep safety at all. You know what I'm saying? He's played more snaps at outside corner than he's played at deep safety at all. He's played like 600 snaps this last year in the slot. So he is what I consider to be like this kind of new age box safety, box strong safety that is playing a nickel, which I guess like is basically, you know, big nickel, you know, so his weaknesses are, you know, deep safety experience. He hasn't played that many snaps at deep safety. Another thing is, can he cover receivers in space? You know, can he carry receivers up the field? And I mean, another thing too is that when you have these tweeners that are kind of like linebacker, nickel, like hybrids, um, you think that, you know, you would want guys that was bigger than him, I guess. You would want guys that are like 6'1", maybe 210, like, you know, bigger, like actual box safety type of looking guy, I guess. But he's not that. He is 5'11", like I said, and 200 pounds. And you know, I think that that's okay, because I think that he's shown in clips that he can cover. There's, you know, just type in his name, you will see him making plays all over the field. He plays very well off ball in the slot. You know, he baits people into throwing picks. He baits, I mean, he's, you know, it's tough to throw screens on him. Another weakness that I have seen is that he's a little bit, sometimes he's over aggressive. There was several times that I seen him. I mean, this is, you know, is it a really big deal? I've seen him on several times give up big plays, specifically on read options, where he would crash down and just like, you know, try to just go, you know, crash down the line and just kill the running back, and then the quarterback will pull and, you know, be off to the races. You know, I don't think that's that much of a big deal, because I don't really see him playing edge for us. You know what I mean? I see him playing like, you know, I see him kind of being like a pest, you know what I mean? Someone that, you know, the quarterback has to point out whether he's coming or not, you know, where is he? Because he's a wild card, he drops back. He can, you know, crash down, blitz, you know, he can cover. He, you know, I've heard people say he has elite short area quickness. He's very good, you know, invert hooks, you know, I mean, in covering the flats. I've even seen people say that they thought he could be like, you know, an all Pro Bowl type, you know, cover 2 corner outside. So, you know, I think that a lot of his coverage things are, I don't know if he'd ever be a great man corner, but I think that his instincts will, like, you know, I just kind of view him as like the modern, you know, weak outside linebacker. As we see like these guys like Darius Leonard get smaller and smaller, he's kind of like the defensive back version of guys like that. I don't know how well he would ever be able to backpedal and like do all that shit, but I know attacking downhill, I think he's great. You know, that's pretty much. I mean, he hits. He's physical. One thing I did want to say though is that I do think that it's very part of the reason why this pick was so weird to a lot of people is because I think that they didn't really see slot as a real position of need. But I think that when you have a guy that is not only just like a slot corner, but like a guy that is doing that shit plus having linebacker skills with that at that size and speed, I feel like it was definitely worth the pick. And I think that, you know, we're in a passing league now, so there's going to be ways that you could play 6 defensive backs on the field if need be. So that, you know, maybe they think you can play deep as well, but that's pretty much how I feel about Pitre, you know. Anything else?
Well, I can jump in, you know. Pitre, you know, he's another one of those players that I kind of feel the same way I do about him as I did with Green. You know, he's a plug and play player. You know, he's going to be good. I do kind of see him as kind of like a Justin Reed clone, maybe with a little bit higher ceiling, a little bit more athletic, which is not a bad thing. I mean, Justin Reed's a good player, you know, so you can say what you want about him leaving the Texans, and there's going to be people that hate about that, but you know, it is what it is. You know, Pitre, you know, you made some great points about, you know, him being able to play all over the field. You know, a lot of things that people were saying about, you know, more highly regarded players. And he's got a similar skill set, maybe not as tall, as a Hamilton or something like that, but similar skill set. And ultimately that's what it's about. It's like, what happens on the field, no matter your size, is like, what's the end result? Did they make the tackle? Did they make the interception? Whatever. So I think he's going to be a good player. I personally don't think he's going to jump out the gate and be an all pro, type player, but I think he's going to be a good starter and with potential to be maybe like a top 10, top 15 safety. So yeah, good pick. I think, where they were.
I hated the pick. I hated drafting Pitre. I
I
didn't
did
understand
too, to be
it.
honest.
I didn't want Pitre, but I've warmed up to the idea of having just like another honey badger type player. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's a slot corner. I don't know why we're gonna try to make him anything else. You know what I'm saying? Just play him at slot corner. If they try to play him at deep safety and he struggles, I'm gonna be like, what are you doing? Like, what are you thinking? It's just just fucking Google what he played and then play him there. You know what I'm saying? Stop trying to get creative, right? It'll take some convincing for me, to see if I like him as a second round draft pick, I guess.
For me, I think I was the most anti Jalen Pitre amongst us on the Twitter spaces. I did not see the value. Like Leo said earlier, I was the main one that felt like it was a redundant pick. Felt like he is a box safety, on the line, slot corner, nickel corner type player when we already had that in Tavierre Thomas and Desmond King. So I felt like it was a redundant pick, but I don't knock his talent. I do think he is very, very damn talented. I think he can play multiple positions. I think he can play sub linebacker. I think he can be great at that. I think he can be great at nickel corner, slot corner. I think he can be great at that. I don't want them to misuse him and try to play him deep, because I feel like that would subject him to unnecessary criticism. Because at the end of the day, I feel like playing him deep is similar to Kareem Jackson's rookie year at corner. Kareem was getting burnt every play, all day, every day. That his rookie year, and I feel like that's the same with Pitre if you plan on playing him deep like that. But I think if you play him how he's supposed to play, which is the comparison, is them honey badger. If you play him like a honey badger and you play him on the line in middle of the defense type action, he's going to be great and he's going to succeed. So at the end of the day, it's a wait and see process, because I think he's, like Leo said, he's the most polarizing, because nobody knows where he's going to play. Nobody knows what he's going to do, how the Texans are going to use him. So he's the ultimate wait and see prospect out of the whole draft class for the Houston Texans.
Yeah. Also, there was some other stuff that Dave Aranda came out and said about him like yesterday. Said that he was a great leader. They said that he would understand the whole defense. He said he just thought very highly of him as a football player. That was one of the things that he said about him, is that he had to learn how to let Jalen be Jalen. And I think, moving from the LSU defense where, they ran a 3-4, a lot of it, like, it was kind of weird, because I kind of feel like in some spots they damn near used him almost like how he used Caleb Von Chason, you know what I mean? And then at the same time, but he dropped back into coverage too. So yeah, I mean, I get it, but I mean, I hope that it's just more of a pick of like, Lovey adapting, his own twist onto like the modern defenses rather than like viewing him as a safety. Because I mean, but I just can't even get to that point in my mind, because he plays so few snaps at deep safety. They got him because of how he played the linebacker, and then at that point, I mean, how he played slot and that shit. And so like my thing is that I think that it's never a bad thing to have that many DBs that can play anywhere, because it's a position where people get hurt. And then it just goes back into what I'm saying about King, and I know we can move on. I think King is a versatile player too that has, you know, experience playing safety. You know, I'm playing in a scheme that was probably a little bit more demanding than a 2 high. So like my thing is that like I think it gives you the ability to probably kick, you know, safety down the can in future drafts, deep safety in a scheme where like I think, and I mean I've heard like Tyrann Mathieu and stuff say this, that playing corner in the Tampa 2 is easier than playing safety. You know what I mean? So maybe they just don't value the safety position that much, the deep safety position that much, because they know that there's a lot of guys that can do what they're doing. So, I mean, that's the only way I could justify it. But I mean, we'll just see. I mean, I think they're gonna find ways to get him on the field. You know.
Yeah, I think one, and I could be off on this, but I do feel like the Texans are looking at defenses, other defenses in the league, like the Bills, for example.
Mhm.
Like they pulled over the Bills D-line coach. You know, and you've seen we picked up a couple players here and there. So one of the things is you look at those defenses, they have multiple safeties that are interchangeable and can play, you know, are pretty good.
Yeah.
So I think Caserio probably sees Pitre as one of those pieces, not necessarily as like the guy to come in and be the superstar of the secondary, but more so a piece to the puzzle, you know?
Mhm.
So, you know, I think that it's a wait and see with all these players, like you said, but, you know, I wouldn't write off Pitre just yet. I trust Caserio enough to know, and Lovey for that matter, to believe that they have a plan for him. So, you know, they have to have some kind of, they're not going to put him out of place, I don't think, you know.
Mhm.
So we'll see.
Y'all want to move on?
And then we're moving on to our second round pick, which is John Metchie. And I have the pleasure of breaking him down as well. John Metchie, wide receiver from Alabama, 5'11", 187. Is to me, he was the best receiver on Alabama's team, frankly, for the last 2 years. You go back to 2020 where he played well, where it was kind of his coming out party in 2020. And, you know, he was the leading receiver in 2020. Even so with freaking Jalen Waddle being injured, which gave Metchie the opportunity, and he played well and kind of solidified his spot. For in 2021, I feel like him and Jamison Williams kind of alternated, but at the end of the day, when you needed a first down, when you needed a key critical play, touchdown, John Metchie was that guy. John Metchie gave you everything you could possibly want or need as a wide receiver during his time at Alabama, and I feel like he can progress going forward in the pros. He's projected more as a slot receiver, which is something the Texans have been kind of looking for, i.e. the Kiki QTs and the list of Damian Amendolas and even, you know, all these different guys that they brought in to try to play the slot. They've been kind of searching as an organization. We've been kind of searching for that slot receiver. We've had wide receiver ones with Andre Johnson, DeAndre Hopkins. Hell, even Brandon Cooks right now is a wide receiver one for us. John Metchie brings that slot potential that we've all been looking for. Sorry about that in the background. But also for me, Metchie, give me a second. Let me kind of take care of that.
They went in on the podcast, man.
Yeah. I'm like, damn, is it never ending? Like
We had our first caller.
yeah, the first call for the
Right.
podcast.
And we ignored them.
But to continue with John Metchie, for me, he's an excellent fluid route runner. Like to me, that goes. I don't think it's talked about enough how crisp his routes are and how he understands down the distance and how he's able to get open even on broken plays. He's able to make an adjustment and you know, be available for the quarterback, whoever it is. He's great at snapping off his routes. That goes in again with the, broken plays. But just if you look at the film, if not all his games, for me, the most polarizing game, or the most, not polarizing, but the most obvious game to show his talent was the Auburn game, where he kind of abused Roger McCreary up and down the field all game long. I mean, to me, it goes back to that him when they needed a touchdown, needed a 2-point conversion, needed that play. John Metchie beat fucking Roger McCreary on a whip route. I mean, look like dog shit on a whip route. I mean, that's how crisp and how excellent he is as a route runner. And he did that multiple times throughout that game on Roger McCreary on the inside at slot. Like I said, he's a master at the whip route. He's great on hitches and drive routes. He's great on those as well. The only knock, the major knock is the ACL injury, obviously. The second knock is that he's smaller than what he actually is on the field. He looks smaller, should I say. He's 5'11", 187, but on the field, he kind of looks even smaller than that. They kind of compare him in size to Calvin Austin and things of that nature when he's actually bigger than those guys, but his frame is small. Also, they don't consider him a burner. They consider him to have average speed. So he didn't run a 40 because of the ACL injury, but I'm looking at him as a 4.4 guy, but more on the high end 4.4s and not the low 4.4, 4.4 and under. 4.4 and under. And he's not the best hands catcher. So he's not the guy that's going to always catch with his hands. Those are the knocks on him. But he does attack the press extremely well. He opens his routes identically to Devontae Adams. The way he's able to come off the ball and beat man press and to beat, those corners off the line is similar to Devontae Adams. That would be, I would say, the slot receiver version of Devontae Adams would be, to me, the comparison for John Metchie. But all in all, I think it was an excellent pick. We talk about Davis Mills needs weapons. Kenyon Green was first, on that offensive line to help him out, and he damn sure needed another receiver. So John Metchie is an excellent pick. He was I'm kind of pounding the table for John Metchie during that whole conversation. I keep repeating myself when we talked about it on Twitter and the spaces, when everybody was so infatuated and in love with damn Jamison Williams. First person I brought up was damn John Metchie. So I'm really excited about that. And I feel like he's going to do very, very well. And I think he's not going to be asked to do too much, which is going to make him even better as a player, because he's not going to be required to be that number 1, number 2 guy like he was at Alabama. So with the Texans, him being the third receiver, maybe even fourth option, kind of allows him to succeed greatly. But I just want to hear you guys thoughts about John Metchie.
Yeah. So, the main thing that stands out for me with John Metchie is like, we all like go and Google or YouTube a player as soon as we draft them, or as soon as we hear about the idea of drafting a player, right? I think one of the things that always stood out to me is John Metchie was considered the alpha in that wide receiver room. He was like the guy. He was the receiver. He was the glue receiver. He is what made the engine run. You know what I'm saying? Like for the receiver room. Like everyone said that. When you hear him speak, he's so mature. You know what I'm saying? Like he's just an extremely mature guy. And it's so weird hearing how well spoken he is and stuff like that. It's like, dude, what the hell? It's strange, 'cause I'm not even that well spoken. You know what I'm saying? I feel like the dude's more mature than me and he's like half my age, but very cool kid. Maybe I'm tripping. Oh, no. That's a different draft player. But where did he grow up, AD? Where was he from?
He's from Canada. He's from,
See?
he's not here.
Yeah.
He's from Canada, so
That's why he's so well spoken and nice.
Yeah. That's why he's such a nice guy, man.
He wasn't brutalized by the American public
Yeah,
education system. So
I like him. I think he's like a cross route technician too. You know what I'm saying? He really
Yeah.
he'll find his way in the middle of the field, just every single down. You know, he's a fun watch. He's a very fun watch. He tries to make a play before he catches the ball a lot, right? So he's thinking way too far ahead instead of just catching the ball, right? And I think we saw it with Will Fuller where he kind of fixed his drop issue. I think if you're worried about something like not being able to catch that well with your hands straight away, that gets fixed really easy. It's the can you separate from the cornerback, right? Which he can already do.
Yeah, I like
one thing. I'm sorry, Leah. One to add on to that is that he's the ultimate yak receiver. He is excellent as far as yards after catch. He makes plays consistently, and that was something he thrived in at Alabama, was those yak yards and those yak plays. So, that was my only other comment. Go ahead, Leo.
No, I was just gonna say I like this pick as well. I think it was, you get a solid player, I've seen people say that like he should have been like a 3rd round pick and stuff, but I mean, when like, Jahan Dotson goes, no knock on Jahan Dotson, but when you see guys like that going in like the like around 20, who's to say that if he didn't stay healthy, have a big game against, Georgia that game, have another big game against Cincinnati, then have another big game against Georgia again. Who's to fucking say that he wouldn't win in the 1st round? So and then he wasn't able to run. There's a lot of people that question his speed. I think that if he would have, when you look at him on tape, I've seen people say that he looks like he runs like a 4.6 or a high 4.5, but he looks pretty damn fast to me. I wouldn't have been surprised if he ran like a sub 4.5, like not saying like 4.41, but like a 4.48. Like I wouldn't be surprised at that
For sure, easily.
So my thing is that
that's why I have him at.
If he has good tape and then he finishes the year strong, he has a strong combine, then we aren't going to have a chance to get him in the 2nd round. So I feel like this is a steal,
Yeah.
This is still made possible by Deshaun Watson and, trading back and, so I think it was a good pick,
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys have said. When I look at Metchie, and I'll admit I hadn't done a lot of homework on him prior to the draft. So he wasn't one of the guys that I zeroed in on as a number 1 guy, going to be elite. But as I've done more homework on him, one thing that I've really grown to like about his plays, he's just so smooth when he runs routes. He's not going to be the athletic, twitchy guy like like some of the other guys that went in the 1st round. He's not going to be that guy. But not all elite players, not all elite receivers are that. You know what I'm saying? They're not all going to be athletic, twitchy, huge catch radius guys. For somebody like Metchie, I hope his speed and his athleticism reminds me of somebody. And I'm not saying he's going to be this player. It would be crazy for me to say that, but I hope he watches the tape of Cooper Kupp because he's got really good routes, but there's another level he could take them where if he can watch a guy like Cooper Kupp, who's like not necessarily out of this world athletic, but has enough athleticism and is a super route technician, where if he can take those bits and pieces that a player like that has, he could be, I think Metchie easily could be a 1,300 yard receiver, maybe more, if he's really gets the targets. But I think it's a good pick. I think it's for a 2nd round pick. I forget which exact pick it was. I think he's going to outplay it. And so it's a win in my book. I think, sky's the limit for him.